Welcome back to another episode of Decoded, a Lost Codex podcast. My name is Jesse, and I'm the writer, director, and narrator for the Lost Codex episodes. Today I'm joined by a brand new guest host. For anyone who's watched us on our Twitch streams or just listened to me talk on podcast, you may have heard me talk about the name Stannis. And no, not Stannis of House Baratheon from Game of Thrones, but rather Stannis next to me here, who is named after the Game of Thrones Stannis. Hello, Stannis. Welcome to Decoded for the first time.
Hello, Jesse. Thank you for having me on.
You're welcome.
It's a pleasure.
For anyone who is familiar with our streams or hung out in chat before, Stannis is a mod in our Twitch chat and has been around for a good long time. I want to say him and Latest have been around from the very beginning, and trolling our chat and yelling at people in our Twitch chat. And tonight there's a special theme that I want to talk about. And I remember it was last Friday when all the new information came out, and I was on a call with with Latest and Chandran, and I said to them, should I have Stannis on the podcast tonight? Because all the new Tyrande information that's coming out, right? And as I said that, I get a Snapchat from Stannis of a screenshot of Tyrande's new model saying it's Tyrambo time. And I thought, yep, you know what? That's it. That's all I needed. That's the only thing I needed, is to have that one Snapchat about Tyrambo. And here we are, Stannis. So welcome. After about a year and a half of streaming, you finally you made it on. You made it on.
I've made it to the big time. I'm actually really happy to be here. Sorry to disappoint everyone that I am not Jack. I am.
Oh yes.
The less attractive, more foreign version of Jack, maybe.
I know, but that accent,
get a mask, though, maybe.
That accent, you're gonna that alone is a hook right there. We're bringing in a whole new audience tonight. We're trying some new things.
It's fine. I'll just amp up the Australian as we go on. We'll just get into the full crikeys. It'll be okay. Add
some Barbies in there and all that stuff. Little bit of a shout out to Sage in chat here for making Stannis's little name icon here. Thank you, Sage, for that last second graphic throw in there. Stannis, before we dive into the news, do you want to do a little shout out for any of the channels that you mod for or stuff like that? Because you are bringing a community here tonight. So any channels you want to shout out?
Oh, that may take far too long. But for the people that are in chat at the moment, I'd like to thank Darkmech for coming by. He does really good tank guide videos on YouTube. So if you look up for Darkmech, great YouTuber. Everyone else, just hello.
This is the gesture for links in the comments below. So if you're listening to this, we're going to put some links to Darkmech below for his tanking guides. Down there. All right. Let's dive into some news here. Oh, actually, we got some other news. You guys are listening in, and you're probably saying, "Well, Jesse, what happened to Decoded episode 23 last week?" Funny enough, I was getting ready to do a little bit of an info dump video for all the 8.1 stuff. Very quick summary, because I wanted to gush about it on podcast. So last Friday night, we were doing that, and we were going to have the podcast later on last Friday night. And my phone starts screaming, and I get a tornado warning in my city, and I ignored it. I live in Canada, but I don't live in a place where tornadoes are common. I don't live in Tornado Valley, so we got that, and we went, oh, we've gotten these a couple times a year, and it just gets slightly windy, no big deal. At about 6 p.m. my time, the power goes out. I thought, oh, crap. So I waited. I said, it'll be back, don't worry. And then the wind really started to pick up. And it turns out several power generators in my city had the roofs torn off completely. 6 tornadoes touched down in the surrounding area near my city. And the capital of Canada and the surrounding region was pretty much out of power for between 12 and 56 plus hours. Of course, I was out of power for 54 hours. I survived. No one I know was hurt, thankfully. And actually, I don't even think anyone was killed. Like, miraculously, there was no one in my city that was killed. Tons of damage. A whole garbage tank was thrown into the air and like flattened 3 cars. No one was in that, thank God. And yeah, it was quite the experience. You know, you don't really take for granted how much you appreciate power until you realize you step outside and you cannot determine which way is certain landmarks because you cannot see literally anything around you. The stars were beautiful because there's no light pollution, but I was standing in the mall near my house and I couldn't orient myself. I couldn't tell which direction was which because that's how pitch black it was. And it was it was like Walking Dead style. It was like, that was the apocalypse. I was like, holy crap, this is it. So that's, in my 27 years of living here, I have never seen a tornado touch down, and then 6 of them touch down in the same night. So yeah, that was fun. That was...
Sorry to interrupt here, Jesse, but all I'm hearing is you wanted to do a podcast with me, and then you literally came up with any excuse not to do it.
That's it. I asked him, and he said sure, and I was like, "Fuck, I didn't expect this." And I made up all the stuff on all the social media stuff. That's all fake news. I made that up just to and then I did some mall snaps of me screaming in my Australian accent about how creepy it was. I believe I sent that to you too, Stannis, didn't I?
Yes, I did.
Perfect.
Not a fan.
Not a fan. Actually, you told me my accent was perfect. But anyway, let's just dive right into the news. I'm okay. I'm back. Decoded was delayed. And you might say, where was Jeff? Jeff's working on some Blizzcon stuff. We'll talk about that in the weeks to come. But the news, some news that we've missed. The order is in no particular order, but today they announced some BlizzCon virtual ticket information. And last year, there was brief mention that they really wanted to up the virtual ticket. There was, I know that there's a lot of new stuff coming with the virtual ticket that they've never done before, and this is an example of one of them. Playable demos using the virtual ticket, and the first one they announced was the World of Warcraft Classic, which I know a lot of people are excited for. A lot of people have opinions on this. But to be able to take home a demo that a lot of people... Like, I remember before Heroes of the Storm was a thing, I tried Heroes of the Storm like 2 years before it came to live. And I remember, I want to say my first 2 years, 2011, and then 2013 as well, or maybe it was only 2011. Anyway, I remember trying Heroes of the Storm two different BlizzCons, and it was called 2 different games. And a lot of people have kind of expressed, well, I can't go to the convention, but it sucks that I can't play this game. And now, 12 BlizzCons in, 11 BlizzCons in, they've managed to do that. So that's actually kind of exciting. Whether or not you're excited for Classic, that's kind of cool. So I part of me speculates, are we going to get any other playable demos? Is there going to be like a PTR for 8.2? Is there going to be a Diablo playable demo? Is there going to be an Overwatch map that's going to be like a PTR style that's going to go? Is this just the first of many? I don't know. Stannis, what do you think about not Classic, but like the playable demo? What do you think? Are you gonna play them if it's a game that you're interested in?
Oh, just up front, I didn't play during Classic, so I don't have like the nostalgia towards that time period that a lot of other people do.
The rose-tinted goggles.
Exactly. So I'm just from that aspect, it's one of those things. I don't see myself playing Classic and the live version at the same time. Like, I'm not too sure, but it's definitely good for the people who want to play Classic to like get their hands on it and just like probably like quell some suspicions that have been around. Because like every YouTube comments you see, anything Blizzard posts, it's when's Classic? At least this shows like that it's a progress and it's actually getting towards a point which will actually be released. So when they've got something like tangible in their hands that actually play through and look at, I think that'll be really good just to quell some suspicions that have been going around.
Agreed. And, you know, whether or not you're excited for it, I think that the idea of being able to play a BlizzCon demo on the virtual ticket, to me, that kind of, this is going to be a little bit, some people might not agree, but it almost makes the increase of price a little bit worth it. In that, saw some comments today of people going to BlizzCon saying that the demo should be only for people who are physically there. And I thought, well, not everyone can go. And then I thought, okay, but you do spend quite a bit of money to go to BlizzCon, travel expenses, unless you're local. So there is that, you know, increase of $10, but you get to play the extra demo. I don't know. I'm starting to lean towards, okay, I can see why, if not for the cost effectiveness, the amount of work to get a Classic. I'm very curious to see, and actually Ian said today in the video that went out with him and J. Allen Brack, they've got some things to work out on their end. They're trying to figure it out. So I'm curious if it's going to be across multiple features. Last year's expanded virtual ticket with more access to different panels, that was a step in the right direction, and this is a further step. So I'm excited for that, and I think it's a good It's a good step in the right direction. I hope that every year's virtual ticket doesn't get more and more expensive. I hope that this little increase is to try and justify that amount of work. So we'll see. Speaking of virtual ticket, we have the Warcraft goodies announced, which is a very hot topic in the community right now. Stannis, I actually didn't ask you this when we were talking before we went live. What do you think of the goodies that were announced?
The goodies so far, so we mean the cloaks and the flag things?
The banners? Yeah, it's a toy,
banners,
I think. I don't even know. Is it a toy?
I'm not too sure.
I would imagine it's a toy. It has to be a toy.
Coming from like the outlook of like a pet collector, like I'm always a big fan of the pets when they introduce them, but I can't say that I have cloaks equipped on any of my characters at the moment. I've got them all hidden. So can't really say I would get any use out of that at all. I mean, they look cool, definitely, but I don't know if it would be worth me, like, it would make me want to actually buy the ticket specifically to get those things. Just doesn't really gel with me at all. What about you?
I'm on the fence. I like it. I think that having transmog, I've always thought the Diablo transmogs would be cool to bring over into WoW, like not Diablo style transmog, though that would be cool, but how Diablo always gets like some little transmog features, I thought, Blizzard should bring that over and give it to the Warcraft goodies. But at the same time, I'm used to pets, and last year's lack of pet in exchange for a mount, I was like, okay, that's worth it. But I was hoping to either keep the mount trend or go back to the pet trend, and I feel, I don't want to use the word disappointed. I'm not mad at Blizzard. It looks really cool for a very simple cosmetic. I think the banners are really cool. It comes with a toy and cloak. I think the toy and cloak is makes it at least partially. I see people saying paying $50 for a cloak. It's like, no, that you're not. I mean, if you only play WoW and you were only buying it for the cosmetics, yeah, that's $50 for a cloak, and don't buy that if you don't want to. But the virtual ticket is way more than just the Warcraft goodies. And you could say, I'm not the target audience because all I do is play WoW. That's fine. But the Sombra skin, the Demon Hunter Sombra skin, Jack and I talked about it in the last podcast. It's amazing. It's a legendary style skin. It's better than the last two BlizzCon Overwatch skins combined. So I don't know. I'm hoping there's more, but if there's not, I'll get over it pretty easily. I'll be like, all right. So yeah, we'll see where that goes. Some faction cloaks and faction banners. I like it. I'm kind of wanting more, but if there's not, I'm not going to flip a truck and scream, kind of thing.
Exactly. It feels like when I saw that, I was like, and then what? Like, I know that's just me being like greedy towards like what to expect out of things, but I'm like, it's like, it's nice, but at the same time, it is just kind of like, eh.
Yeah.
Like, I appreciate that it exists. Do I want it? Not particularly. Right.
So I'm same. And like, I guess I can feel the same thing about the heroes rewards with the shark mount and the little tags. Shark mount looks cool. I don't play heroes, so I'm like, oh, that's cool. If when I play heroes the one time a year when Blizzard puts in a cross promotion, I'm probably going to use the shark mount. But I'm if there was like a BlizzCon skin for a certain character, maybe. But we all have our likes and dislikes. Since we are kind of 2 weeks behind on news, Alliance Warfronts went live last week. And what'd you think? I know you Stannis means Alliance, by the way. So last week was your first time into Warfronts. What do you think about them?
So Warfronts themselves, try to not sound too disappointed by it, but it was kind of just there. Like, you went in, you did things, you kind of just walked around for a bit. Like, I thought that would have been a really good place to like add story into the game, like with more like voice lines and things with the commanders like interacting with each other.
Right.
Like, I thought that would have been a really good spot to like add a lot of that like flavor in, but didn't really get too much in terms of like anything meaningful from there. Like, you just run in, E-Trig's standing around, and then you kind of bop him a little bit, and then at the end of it, it's like, is there any story ramifications of doing that? Like, I'm guessing it's just like part of the scenario E-Trig will be perfectly fine at the end of it from there. But did we really accomplish anything from it at the end? Yes, no?
I guess that's I feel the same way. I'm kind of waiting on what's the end of the Warfront. What's the at which point in time is there going to be a canonical ending to the Warfront? I guess 8.1. I'm really curious to see how does the Alliance win. We beat up. I've always called him E-Trig, but Danath calls him I-Trig, so I don't know if that was
It's his accent.
Maybe his Stromic accent. I don't know. So is I-Trig in prison? Is next week the new Horde commander? Is it going to be Liadrin? I want to know the story ramifications of these Warfronts, and if we'll see them reflected in the future. Does the battle for Arathi canonically end before the battle for Darkshore starts? But it's obviously going to be kept in game for gameplay reasons. I'm not sure. I think it's an interesting way to gear. I love the music in there. The last couple that I've done, I've purposefully gone out of my way to try different things. If you just try and complete it, chances are you're just kind of streamlining through doing the same shit every time. But you can make it a little bit different. Have some fun. If you went to the mine one time, go to the lumber mill the next time. And I didn't realize until my third Warfront that you could lose buildings. I didn't realize the Horde can take them back, so I thought that was kind of cool. I was like, oh, we just lost 2 out of 4 buildings. I didn't even know that was a thing.
I didn't know that was a thing until just then. Okay.
Yeah. So if you don't properly defend Newstead, the Horde will come in with a champion, and they will kill all the guards and then take it back, and you have to basically redo that whole area. You lose control over your... you get to keep your current units from that area, but you can't make any more. So... I don't know. I'm curious to see what's next for Warfronts.
I think they could have done for some adding some more cosmetic things into it as well. I understand that you get the Warfront armor for doing them there, but at the same time, I've done a lot of PvP at the beginning of this season there, so I had a lot of the sets through PvP already, so I didn't really get anything new from it. But
there was the new colorations, but that's about it. I wish there was a way, because you can get the elite tier 3 Warfront armor. It sucks. So there's 2 ways to get it. You can get one coloration by getting your PvP rating up, or you can get the other coloration. Basically, every time your faction takes the Warfront, you get that quest that rewards you with a 370 piece. That 370 piece is a different color of the tier 3 armor set. So basically, you have to luck out and hope you don't get duplicates. So Horde is going to get their opportunity for their second 370 piece this week, which will be piece number 2 out of that elite set. So I wish there was another way to collect those elite pieces rather than literally have to wait 16 days, basically 2 weeks every time you want to get a new piece. I think that's a little bit silly. But on the other hand, in order to get the PvP version, you have to actually get your PvP rating up, which isn't the easiest thing. So grinding it out of PvP versus waiting. You can get it, but over a longer period of time. I guess it kind of balances out-ish, maybe.
Yeah, now that you've brought it up, that's probably the main issue I had with Warfronts is the time between them. Because honestly, when they introduced Warfronts, their explanation as to how they actually worked and the time frames that you go through to wasn't explained the best. So I was under the impression that there were 2 phases. So the first phase is when the Alliance is attacking, second phase when the Alliance is defending, and then reverse for the Horde. But then there's that middle phase there that you kind of do some dailies that you can only do once for some reason, and then just kind of wait around for the rest of it. And I'm I just feel that part there, if that part wasn't in and it just swapped back and forth depending on just a time period, just give it a week basically, that would have a much better feel than if there was that not that waiting around period in the middle that you just not really doing anything of meaning.
Taliesin and Evitel made a little bit of a joke in their coverage of Warfronts last week with all the drama going on. And at the beginning of the video, there's a skit, and Trollbane was played by yours truly. And when I read the script, I started laughing because they have a point. Taliesin and Evitel come up. By the way, go watch it. It's funny. And not just because I'm in it. It's actually really well written. Humble brag. They say, Trollbane, we're the Alliance. We're here to defend Strom because the Horde is attacking. And Trollbane's no, go away. And it's holy crap, that's true, right? The Horde attacks Strom while the Alliance player does nothing. The Alliance player is not involved in the defending of Strom. The Alliance player is only involved in the reclaiming of Strom. So basically, Horde players right now are, go to Eitrig and say, Eitrig, we are here to take back Arathi. We're here to defend Arathi from the fallen city of Strom. And Eitrig's like, nah, we got it. And then he's going to lose. And it's just like, there's no... as you said, I hate how it's one-sided. The Alliance is only involved in reclaiming, not actually defending. And there could have been a better way to implement that. But let's move on to... we're just going to dive right into the 8.1 news. And I want to talk about, before we dive into the lore, that one of the biggest pieces of 8.1 news that came out in the live stream last week was the account-wide rep. For anyone working towards their blue high elf unicorn, if you have 50 reps on one character and 30 reps on another character, different reps max out at Exalted, they will combine to 80 reps across your account. If you have a Horde character and an Alliance character with the same rep that's marked to Exalted, that only counts as one. So, for example, if you have an Alliance and Horde character, both 120, and you are Exalted with 7th Legion and Honor Bound, that's only one rep because they're the same rep, just divided, unfortunately. But account-wide reps is pretty big, pretty huge. And the other big thing that my jaw dropped when Ian announced it was the transmog restriction for 8.1 is being removed once you unlock the reputation level. And from what I understand, the example he gave is you get to Exalted on High Mountain on your Orc Warrior in Legion. You unlock the High Mountain allied race. But you can't use the High Mountain Tabard on your new High Mountain Tauren because he's not Exalted. So all tabards are going to now have that reputation removed by the sounds of it. Once you reach it on one character, it's unlocked for all your characters, providing it's the proper faction. And I guess we're kind of waiting on confirmation if that means, if I unlock it on my rogue and I get to Exalted on said reputation on my rogue, does that mean all of the mail, cloth, and plate is also unlocked? Or is that do I have to do it on each of the armor classes? If that's the case for each of the armor classes, this change isn't that big. It's not really, they haven't really given us any favors. But the way he explained it, I really think that once we hit Exalted on one character, hopefully those appearances unlock in some way. Either they're allowed to be bought by other characters, just flat out, or the appearances are auto added to your appearance tab. There's no confirmation on that, but if they do it based on armor class type, that's going to be really shitty because that basically means, oh, now you only have to level 2 Exalted on High Mountain on 4 characters of different armor classes, not every single one, which would still suck. But I hope that I hope that this change is good across the board for all models that come off of the transmog off of the reputation vendors. Because I know a lot of people who wanted the tabards for certain characters, but they grinded out Exalted on another character. So hopefully this fixes this. Let's just jump right into 8.1, Stannis, and I'm gonna pass the microphone over to you because one of the biggest pieces of information to come out is all the news on Tyrande and the Night Warrior. And I'm gonna read a little quote and then I'm gonna just back off and let Stannis go. The quote is this. It comes from a little flavor item necklace talking about Elune, and it says, "While she is a goddess of peace, she is not a pacifist. One of her aspects is the Night Warrior, who takes the valiant among the dead and sets them riding across the sky as stars." Stannis, when I saw the Tyrande information, I was like, I think Stannis would be a good podcast host. And then Tyrambo text came in, and here we are. The floor is yours, sir. Gush about Tyrande. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm so excited for this. From the introduction that Teldrassil was going to be burnt there, I'm like, Tyrande's going to go batshit, and she's going to do, she's just going to go fuck some shit up. That's what Tyrande's going to do. I'm all aboard with this. It's going to be great. And then she just kind of really didn't do anything for the first little bit there. She was in the scenario there, She shows up, she protects Malfurion because it's not an expansion without Malfurion being kidnapped or beaten up or...
He's the best at being the damsel.
Whatever misfortune Malfurion finds himself in. And I'm like, this is the time. Tyrande needs to go show some agency in her character. She's been very like reactive the past few expansions. Actually, that's been a trend for most of the Alliance. They've been very reactive for all of the past few expansions there. This is like the first time that, well, at least with... But Garethos' emails, Jesse, his emails.
What I said off mic there was talking about how the Alliance is reactive to the Horde. And pretty much the entire story of World of Warcraft is the Horde does something and the Alliance responds. The Horde does something horrible and the Alliance sweeps in to clean up their mess. And that's going to really offend some people. Stannis is biased because he plays Alliance. I play Horde. But that's not an opinion. That's a fact. You know, people are going to say that this whole expansion started because Gen attacked Sylvanas in Stormheim, or the Alliance killed some innocent civilian goblins in Silphus. It's like, really? Really? That's what started this war? No, that's not what started this war.
Anyway, back to Tyrande.
Back to Tyrande. Go ahead.
So it's like, I feel, at least in... because Cataclysm, she really didn't do all that much. Mr. Pandaria, she was shown to be like an absolute idiot with that scenario with Varian. So I think that was more so to build up Varian's character at the expense of Tyrande. And then, so since then, she's been really hit or miss in any of her appearances. Like, I'm a big Tyrande fan. I will be the first to admit that she's a crazy woman. She's like, depending on what scenario she's in, her personality changes like drastically. The only like consistent thing that she has with her is that she's strong-willed and she'll leap straight into something. And I thought by the time everyone like slogged through the Val'sharah scenario there of Malfurion, my love, getting to the end of that from there, she had to make that decision of, was she going to go find Malfurion, or was she going to do her duty to the Night Elf people there and then go stop what was happening with Ysera? So she made that decision. She chose her duty over Malfurion, which I thought was a really good character moment for her. And then to get back to the introduction scenario there, when she has like, they're being attacked by the undead, all the Horde, and then she kind of makes off with Malfurion, gets to safety. I thought that was a bit of a weird turn, but it's not inconsistent with her inconsistencies, if that makes any sense.
I will jump in and say her actions in game in the Darkshore storyline were very, you know, I thought, are you really going to leave when your city's about to be attacked and occupied? And then
loses.
And then I read the short story, and it made so much more sense. You read the short story?
I did, yes.
Okay. So it really, I feel that she doesn't deserve as much flack because there was that, you know, she is given that stone, the Hearthstone, by Anduin, and Anduin says, like, there's no point in throwing your life away, fight another day kind of thing. And I was still a little bit frustrated when she hearthed out, but I had to remind myself that she doesn't know the Horde is about to destroy her city. They realize that by occupying the city, that was Sarfang's whole plan. And when Gen comes running out of the portal carrying Mia in his arms, and she sees the portal close, she says, "What's happening?" And I remember Gen's almost like at a loss for words, like he doesn't know how to say it. At that moment, that's when you realized, holy crap. She didn't see the cinematic. Tyrande, no one knew what was going down. Tyrande was kept in the dark literally until that moment, because she hearths back to Stormwind, and Sylvanas gives the order to burn the tree maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes later. And so there's no, and I think the evacuation is like, happens in a matter like 10 minutes. So she barely had enough time to make sure Malfurion wasn't bleeding out before she runs back to the portal, and it's too late. And so I think giving her some shit on abandoning her people, as you said, the inconsistencies were consistent in game. I was like, oh look, she's leaving again. And then you read the short story and you're like, oh okay. And honestly, I think Blizzard's mistake with that story was not putting the short story out before waiting a week and a half. I think they should have put it all out all at once, because Night Elf fans were left, and I remember you and I talking about the Stannis, like, really? Like, for a whole week we were wondering, like, really, Tyrande? You just take your damsel up and left with no explanation? And there was an explanation, it wasn't in game. It was in a short story. And I'm okay with that. But
from like the logical outlook, like, what's she going to do at that point? She's got like a half-dead Malfurion like draped over one shoulder there. What's she going to do lugging him around throughout Darkshore, like, whilst that's happening? I mean, like, Tyrande's a very like strong character. Like, she could probably take out a few Horde at that stage, but she's not exactly going to be doing anything meaningful from there with all the Horde surrounding her. So
right, she gets on a boat with her Elune machine gun and just
wait, whose boat was that?
Her dad's, Tyrande's dad's boat.
Tyrande's dad's boat. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we have Tyrande. Let's just go back here and talk about the 8.1 Tyrande before Stannis steals the microphone again, because this is really exciting.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Derailed.
That's totally okay. There's something about a scenario with Tyrande becoming the Night Warrior. And instantly I saw people saying, Tyrande's going to be corrupted by Elune. Elune's a Void Lord confirmed. And it's like, what if it's just Elune pissed? What if this is the vengeful side, literally the dark side of the moon, and no more holy open arm welcome to the goddess bullshit. No, she is going back. We've seen her eyes. If you haven't seen her eyes, holy moly, her eyes are amazing. Stannis, what do you think about this physical transformation for her?
I am a big fan of Alanis Morissette Tyrande. I think, like, you ought to know what she's feeling right now, but I'm all for it. Like, the dress was a bit impractical. Let's just be honest there. Like,
you don't like her palette. You don't like her palette. Oh no, her old dress. You like her.
Her old dress, like her big silky robe that she was wearing. That was a bit impractical for fighting anyone. So, like, I'm really a big fan of the armor that she's gone into. She's like full Power Ranger mode right now. So I'm really big fan of that. And I just want her to get like picked up by the shoulders by her bird that was in. Did her bird survive? Do we know that?
Her bird.
Someone put it out to Blizzard. Did her bird survive? The green owl that flies around.
Is that even in game?
Yeah, it's like flying around the little fountain area that her and Malfurion sit in.
Oh yeah. Well, that statue crumbles horribly in the most horrifying, goriest manner. Let's hope. Did the owl forget the scores of Night Elf children? Did the owl make it out, or did they suffer the same fate?
We need to know this, Blizzard. Regardless, she needs to be picked up by the owl and then just be like flown around, raining arrows down from above on the Horde. Like, I need this to happen in the game. I just need the full wrath of Tyrande.
Not even arrows at this point. We saw when she was threatening Sarfang, she just had like these light sabers hovering around Sarfang, and so I want her to be like Oprah and like, you get a lightsaber and just like raining mass starfalls around, being carried by Hedwig there. So we got to find out if she survives. What do you think of her paladin armor? Like her paladin plate armor?
I'm totally on board with that. It looks amazing.
It's so cool. Yeah. It's so amazing.
So good.
I
really need it.
So as we can see in this picture, guys, below, we have Tyrande with black gems all over and her eyes. People are like, oh, her eyes haven't loaded fully. And that is a problem that happens with the WoW model viewer, but it's realized pretty quickly that no, her eyes are fully textured. And this is a little bit old news by now, but for those who haven't heard, after you do this scenario with Tyrande and you do this whole thing, Night Elf, both male and females, get to unlock this eye option, which to me, this may set a precedent every single patch with like little upgrades. We had the fixed Blood Elf faces and the eyes in at launch. I would have been cool to see like a little mini quest chain, but now we're getting this, and I kind of wonder, is Blizzard's listening to the player feedback of, oh, allied race heritage armor is cool, but what about original race? Well, here you have original races are going to get heritage armor, which is a thing. Dwarves and Blood Elves are getting heritage armor first. Are they going to be doing the same thing with customizations? Are we going to get little updates here and there that if they're big lore-wise, they may have a little story change, or if not, give trolls beards? Is there going to be a quest chain for trolls to grow beards officially? They visit the Loa of beards. Something that would be cool to see these little... That's a joke, by the way. People are going to believe, like, there's no Loa of beard. Magni's the Loa of beards. I love the idea of cosmetics being tied to just mini quest chains like this. I think it's a really good step in the right direction, and I really hope we see more of that in the future. So
yes, I totally agree with that.
Tyrambo's on stage right now. She's on the hunt, and there's literally a part in the scenario. By the way, this is full spoilers for 8.1. This is all data mined information. Keep in mind, we don't have context. So, as many Blizzard developers have said, what we see in the files, we need context for. So this is just looking at the raw data. There's a step in one of the scenarios where it's hunt down Nathanos, and you brought up an interesting point here in the notes, Stannis, because we know that the Forsaken are the largest occupied force in Darkshore right now, which is interesting. It's I guess the Forsaken army needed somewhere to go, needed somewhere to throw their plague, and with Northern Lordaeron out of the picture, maybe they... I was surprised. I'm not upset. I was surprised. And we see Nathanos is raising the dead. And it specifically says stop Nathanos from raising the dead. And there's that, you have a question here. Is Nathanos capable of resurrecting the dead, or is it Valkyr on the front lines? And I think we both agreed, correct me if I'm wrong, that it's not him doing the resurrecting. He's definitely got Valkyr helping him out.
I 90% agree with you on that one there. Then again, we didn't think Sylvanas could resurrect undead until this expansion, like directly.
That was a throwback to something we've never seen her do it live in WoW, but that was an ability she had in the old Warcraft games where she could resurrect mindless undead. So it wasn't like people were thinking, did she get new powers? And it's like, no, it's an old power of hers. We just haven't actually seen her raise mindless undead before. But as far as I know, Nathanos does not have this capability. So I think it's just Valkyr on the front lines, but it could be maybe Nathanos is somehow empowered. I don't know. I hope not. I like him. We don't need him to be Sylvanas 2.0. So I'm hoping that it's just him with the bulk of the Forsaken forces there.
That's how it's going to go down. Nathanos being carried around by a Valkyr, and Tyrande being carried around with her owl, just like fighting mid-air.
Aerial combats.
That's the cinematic calling it now.
It's happening. It's confirmed. Stannis has confirmed it. That would just be amazing. And there's going to be a world quest where you have to fly. you get carried around by a Valkyr, so you get to replay the cinematic as yourself.
I'm digging it.
A Valkyr has made it to the water. So we've got Tyrande being a badass. We have Nathanos resurrecting the dead. And what's interesting is I saw he's resurrected the leader of the Wardens. I saw what's her name? Syrah Darkwarden? Darkmoon? Syrah Darkmoon? Is that a...
We'll have to go to the Wheel of Night Elf names to find out what that is.
Let's spin anything from like dark to purple to...
There's Moon, and then we have...
her name. What is her name? Syrah Moonwarden, that's it. Syrah Moonwarden it was introduced in Legion as the stand-in leader of the Wardens. I believe she became the interim leader of the Wardens when Maiev was missing, and apparently she's killed in the 8.1 story. We see she's called Dark Warden, and she's got glowing red eyes, and it looks like the Forsaken Resurrector, unless that's some weird new thing that Elune does, but it doesn't look like it. It looks like a Dark Ranger, but as a Warden. So Sylvanas' units, she's expanding. She's getting some, she's downloaded the expansion pack. And on the map, there's an area called Delaran's Fall. And the whole storyline with Delaran in the pre-expansion patch and in the short story, I really felt that they're setting her up to become a Banshee. And I haven't seen anything confirming that. I haven't seen that yet in the files. I could be wrong. But in her final moments in the Alliance, or is it the Horde storyline? I think it's the Alliance storyline. In her final moments, yeah, it's the Alliance storyline. She's very bitter. She's very angry. She has her loved one in ghost form next to her, and he's trying to soothe her as she dies. And she is so angry and disappointed in those final moments. And I was expecting, because Elune put all the Night Elves to sleep in Teldrassil as they burned horrifyingly alive. But she didn't. She was angry in that final moment, and we see the tears running down her face when Sylvanas casually tilts her head to look towards Teldrassil. And with the tears and those final bitter moments, so many parallels to Sylvanas, I really wanted to know, are they going to make her a Banshee? And Sylvanas didn't do it, and Latest asked me, well, why make her a Banshee now? Why not do it back then? And I thought, okay, that's a good point. Why wait till now? And the logical conclusion I came up with was the heat of the moment. You just ordered Teldrassil to be burned after having all these plans to occupy it. Your Horde army is standing there, watching in horror or excitement, depends on what kind of Horde you are. And Starfang's barking in her ear and saying, they're going to come for us. And then she turns to the player saying, well, pack your bags, head to Undercity. In that moment, there's a lot going on in Sylvanas' head. Because as much as she doesn't want to hear Starfang's words, they weigh a lot. They will come for us, all of them. So she's like, oh, yeah, that's going to happen. What if she just didn't think to resurrect Delaran, on the spot? She's there, she's dead, I don't care about her, let's go. There's no Valkyr here, let's just go. And then later on, when they come back, Nathanos is like, hey, we're doing some crazy things in Kul Tiras. What if we did it here? What if we raised some Forsaken here? So, what do you think? Do you think Delaran's going to be a Banshee, or what do you think?
Not sure on that one. I don't... Again, she's like a character that was only just introduced in the pre-patch, so we don't really have that much knowledge of her beforehand. So I feel they put too much effort into her just to kill her off there. So I could definitely see something happening with her. But
right? A lot of focus on her, to the point where the biggest question for the last year is, who is the elf with the arrows in her back next to Sylvanas in that artwork? Is it Varisa? Is it Illyria? Is it Jaina's dad? Who is it? And turns out it's a random night elf that we've never heard of before. So I was like, really? I wasn't upset. I wasn't upset that no one important died, but I was like, there's a lot of focus on this Delaran chick, and her death spot on the map is called Delaran's Demise or Delaran's Fall or something like that. So I don't know. I'm hoping, but at the same time, it's like, damn, that's going to be tragic. And Delaran's going to be the new Sylvanas, what Sylvanas was to Arthas, and that storyline just gets repeated. Perfect. Let's move on to, on the Sylvanas topic, Vol'jin. And Vol'jin's storyline is going to be introduced here, reintroduced. And from what I saw on Wowhead, a lot of the broadcast text that was brought up, let me pull it up here. Vol'jin doesn't know why Sylvanas is war chief. He's asking the same question we're all asking. Why is she war chief? And we see that Vol'jin says he actually felt cut off from the Loa before he died. He says he didn't feel the Loa with him. I'm trying to find the exact line here. He goes, something not be right that day. The demons, their blades slipped past me guard, like they be doing now. I cannot hear them, champion. The voices of the Loa be silent. And it's like, okay, so someone else whispered in Vol'jin's ear. Someone else whispered the name Sylvanas, and it clearly wasn't the Loa. And so we summon Bwonsamdi, and we ask him, hey, was it you who urged Vol'jin to become war chief? And he says, why would I want the Banshee Queen in charge? He goes, I'm all for war and death, but Sylvanas tips the scales. Balance is important, and she has the nasty habit of keeping what she kills. Your war chief is no friend of old Bwonsamdi. So he's not a fan of her. He does not like her at all. So Vol'jin then confronts the Lich King, knock knock on the frozen throne, and says, hey, like, was that you? And the Lich King says, no, that is not me. And he actually echoes Bwonsamdi. He says, Sylvanas is disrupting the balance. And he tells Vol'jin, your soul has walked on the other side and returned. You have been altered more than you know. You are neither undead nor damned. You do not belong here. Leave this place. And then he gets mad at you and he really tells you to leave. And then the last person you visit is Ayer. I was surprised at this one. Ayer. We go to Ayer and she freaks out. She says, you dare bring a priestess of Bwonsamdi. By the way, you're with Tyrande this whole time, so Tyrande clearly knows about the deal. And she says, Vol'jin says, Queen of the Valkyr, my spirit was sent to the other side and has returned. Was this your doing? She says, Shadowhunter, you are no longer a mere spirit. What you have become is something far beyond my power to forge. You have been touched by the hand of valor. Such a noble force does not scheme for mortal thrones. You have been granted all the knowledge I'm willing to share. Leave now and never return. So no one wants to talk to Vol'jin. What do you think of all that? Who do you think it was, Stannis?
Well, we can rule out from the Windrunner comic, we can rule out that it's anyone related to the Void, because they just don't want anything to do with Sylvanas at all. They see her as a threat. Right. So anyone Void related, we can put them aside. Obviously, the Lich King doesn't want anything to do with her, so he's in the basket. I'm wanting to say it's something to do, because you can't even say it's like to do with Helya and Odin, because they weren't introduced into that Sylvanas story until after those events had happened. So I'm wanting to say it's something Burning Legion related, solely because when he was stabbed by a demon. So possibly something to do with that. I'm going to call it just going to be something out of left field completely, that just a new element that they introduced into it, basically.
So you think it could be a Burning... Because he says the Loa were disconnected from him before. That, like, during that fight, he couldn't hear any of the Loa. I never thought about it being maybe a Dreadlord, because the Dreadlords have enough of a history with different magics that they're almost like a separate faction aside from the Burning Legion. So maybe a Dreadlord. There's also the new question of Bwonsamdi's boss. And we hear this mention of him having a boss, and there's this other troll Loa out there called, his name was Moizala, and Moizala is introduced in the Traveler series, and Moizala was actually first mentioned in Zul'Farrak way back, and he's mentioned alongside Kimball, and he's mentioned alongside Shadra. So Kimball's actually been in game for a while as like a character. Shadra, we've seen Shadra everywhere, and Moizala is known as the father of sleep, the son of time, and he's known as this really vengeful god of the dead. He makes a threat to a child in the Traveler series, and Bwonsamdi makes deals and for the most part holds up his bargains. but what we don't know anything about Muizala. So there's an idea that what if it's this spirit or a deity or an entity from the Shadowlands that did this? So, but then again, Ayer says it wasn't her. So, and we know Ayer specifically, the Valkyr have specific connections to the Shadowlands. So that theory's out the window. I just kind of backed myself into a corner there. Latest in chat says Var Mathras saw it coming. So you could be closer than you realize, Stannis, with the Dreadlords there. This could have been a long-term plot of the Dreadlords, in the same way that they infiltrated the Scarlet Crusade, only this time they infiltrated Vol'jin's mind or something. I don't know. There's a lot of theories.
That's highly unlikely. Overall, I think it would just be like a new element that they'd introduce, like a new character to build up as like a eventual big bad. I don't think it's anyone that we've like known about previously. So, but I'm just thinking of all the things that had happened. It was like demons at the time. He was stabbed by a demonic blade. That was like the tale of events that was happening at the time. But I would be tending to like lean towards just like new big bad for like future expansion.
I hope it's someone we have seen and something that's a little bit more in depth than we realize. I really hope we get to see more of this Muizala. You know, he's revered as a Loa, or he or she is revered as a Loa, but we know nothing about them. And in the same way that Xal'atath was responsible for a lot of shit going down throughout Azeroth's history, I kind of wonder, is this the same situation? Is this another character that's new but has been doing shit for a while that's kind of been right underneath our nose? It's interesting. And obviously the answer people want to say, it's N'Zoth, but I really hope it's not N'Zoth. I really hope it's not the N'Zoth plotted everything. Pull the mask off the Scooby-Doo villain, and who's underneath this mask? Oh, look, it's the same person. It's obviously N'Zoth.
Again, N'Zoth's an agent for the Void Lords, though, so
right.
Why would he be wanting to put Sylvanas in a position of power? It doesn't really make sense for that.
I agree. Let's move on to some other juicy information. We have a scenario. We know, I mentioned earlier that the heritage armor is being introduced for other races, and Blood Elves and Dwarves are getting the first heritage armor sets. Dwarves have a scenario, by the looks of it, by the tags, they go to Ulduar. We don't know what they do there, but maybe some Yogg-Saron clues. We're going to find out some Yogg-Saron information. But the Sunwell is involved in the Blood Elf scenario, and we actually find out that it looks like we get to play alongside the Fall of Silvermoon, which, to me, that is really cool. We've never seen that in-game before. Like, obviously, we played through it in Warcraft 3, but to see that in a... I'm wondering how they're going to do it. We know that there is a new model for Kael'thas that was data mined, and it's a very different model. It's a very updated and changed model. I can't even say it with a straight face. Look at this horrible thing. Look at who decided that this should be allowed in current WoW. This is awful. This is what awaits us in classic WoW, and that is being generous because this is Burning Crusade. Holy crap.
You don't want to walk near him. His 5-polygon shoulders are just going to like rip out an eye or something.
Like,
it's
actually,
quite dangerous.
For anyone who doesn't know what they changed the little glowing orbs around him. They are no longer fel, they are fire, because this is before Kael'thas's fiery days. Even though he has green eyes, he technically should have blue eyes here. And it's for the scenario. We think it's for the scenario, the Fall of the Sunwell. There's mention of King Anastarion in there, and I really hope that we get to see King Anastarion holding Fellow Malorn. It'd be cool if it was a different color too, since blood red and gold wasn't always their color. It'd be cool if it was using the blue and gold. Blizzard, you should do that, because blue and gold was their colors before the Blood Elf coloration was adopted. And to go back in time and to see an event like that, that's actually really that's part of me really wants Blizzard to just go all out and test something that's pretty bold to go into an old zone. I'm really holding out for a Silvermoon Warfront. I'm really holding out. BlizzCon, please grant me that. But even going back in a scenario back in time, in the old Eversong, it'll be fun, but it's going to be, ooh, this is, at least Ulduar looks current-ish. Eversong, not so much. What else we got here for some fun information? Ooh, the Siege of Zuldazar. Or, actually, there's some information from the text that says that it's called the Burning of Zul'dazar, which will prevent the Siege of Orgrimmar flashbacks when people think of Siege.
Or Siege of Borealis at this point.
There's a lot of sieges. Siege of Lordaeron.
Many sieges.
Lot of sieges. Battle for Siege-Aroth. So we don't know all the bosses, but I'm pretty sure we know most of them. And I have here 3 names that I think are neutral. I could be wrong. We have something called Grimfang and Firecaller. ? We have a fight called Duel with the Duo. I don't know what that means. I thought maybe it's the like an alliance quest where they fight the Reptari and the Paku priest, the couple, but that's kind of underwhelming to fight just 2 priests. Maybe they're lowest too. And then we have King Grong, which kind of fits the giant new monkey model we found. So that's interesting. There's that questline in Zandalar where there's the Kajamite gorillas, and gorillas have like intelligence. So I wonder if this is a continuation of that. That would be, interesting to see it expanded on from a little quest. It looks like the Horde will be facing 3 characters. We've got Frida Ironbellows, who, by the sounds of her voice file, sounds like a Dark Iron. We have the Sea Priest Blockade, which mentions a whole bunch of Tide Sages and different priests. There's a mob called Laminaria, and I just googled the word Laminaria, and apparently it's seaweed, a type of seaweed. So are we going to get a seaweed monster? We haven't seen a model for a seaweed monster, but if you just Google the word Laminaria, pictures of seaweed show up. So are they just going to weaponize the plants in the water? That'd be cool. But unless like just a giant seaweed elemental is just going to come crawling up Zuldazar and just pull it in, that would be really that's not going to happen, but that'd be pretty cool to show some extra powers of the Tide Sages, opposed to just like a water gun shooting from your hand.
It would be from like Avatar: The Last Airbender, when the waterbenders had the giant seaweed monster in the swamp.
There we go. See? Confirmed.
Exactly. Just steal straight from that. It's fine.
And then we have Mechatork listed as a boss. And I'm all for... I play both factions, and I think it's cool to face some leaders in a fight. I don't think Mechatork's going to die. There's this big, intense speech that... Mechatork that Gallywix gives about trapping and ambushing Mechatork. And it sounds like there's a ship. There's going to be like a Mechatork ship, and so the goblins are going to land on the ship, and they're going to trigger an SOS warning. Mechatork's going to come flying back to save his ship, and the Horde's going to be waiting for him there on the ship. Now, there is a escape pod that was data mined, a whole new model. I saw someone's in the Discord say that he's going to use the escape pod to get to the ship, and then he's not going to have a way out. He's going to die on the ship. But he's in a giant mech. I'm sure his mech can fly. I'm sure since the Legion scenario, he said, you know what would have been really helpful would have been jets. And he's had 2 years to do that. I'm sure his mech suit can fly. You want to say something, Stannis? I can tell.
Has Mechatork unlocked pathfinding, though? That'll be the real question.
Well, that's true, eh? That is... Has he...
Because if not, he's going to be swimming the whole way there.
He's going to be... Well, he might have a water strider. Can you imagine? You're up in a ship, and you're like, where is he? You look down, like little mechanical water strivers running towards. I really hope Mechatork doesn't die, because this is such an inappropriate location for Mechatork to meet his demise. Like, fight him, fine. Gnomish airship, that's really cool. Goblins versus gnomes, amazing. Killing him in the Burning of Zul'dazar? Killing the one
Bit weird.
the one gnome character that has lore? I'm not sure. We're gonna pause this for just a second, guys. We're gonna come back and we're gonna talk about the Horde characters. We're gonna do a 3-minute bio break. Go get water, go get snacks. We'll be right back, guys, after this advertisement message. Decoded episode 23's mid-podcast break is brought to you by today's no context quote of the stream by Stannis.
I'm a big fan of the dong. Like when you start the boat, how it's got like the dong dong.
Okay, good context. Someone clip that. Someone clip that,
I was just wanting to know, Jesse, are you a fan of the dong?
I haven't noticed the dong. I'll have to go back to make sure I notice the dong. Before we return to the last portion of the podcast, audio listeners on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud, be warned. The next segment is image and visual heavy, and may not be enjoyable for some listeners. Audio discretion is advised. We are back, guys, and I really want to talk about the Horde bosses that the Alliance is facing by the looks of it here. Again, we don't have all the information, but we do have some. And first one we see is a Loa Council, and we don't know which Loa they're going to be. We have abilities data mined for Akunda and Gonk. So if I'm going to guess, Akunda, Gonk, Paku, Kimball. I think Bwonsamdi is going to be part of Rastakon's fight, which we'll get to in a second. So I'm going to say Krogwa and
Johnny.
The Low of Trash. Johnny. Yep. Sure. He's just gonna throw. If you don't kill him when he's up for 2 seconds, he's going to jump on a priest and turn them into one of his little minions. That's not actually true. We don't actually know. All we know is Akunda and Gonk are the 2 Loa. And it mentions the priests of the Loa, so I doubt we're going to kill 6 of the Zandalari Loa, because that really cripples the Zandalari fleet a lot.
A little bit.
I don't...
Tiny bit.
Just as I don't see us killing Mekatork, I don't see us killing the Loa. Maybe the priests, maybe the Paku and the Gonk priest leader, maybe they're going to die. But I don't see us killing the Loa themselves. But, maybe, Blizzard wants to tear our heartstrings out, and maybe this is the patch to do it.
They're Loa, they'll come back, it's fine.
That's true. They can't, unless we pull a Zul and kill them permanently. The last boss on this list is King Rastakhan. Now, there is another Horde boss. We don't really know what they are. It could be the Grimfang and Firecaller boss. We don't really know what that is. According to Wowhead's post, it says here, players will face off against Mara, Grimfang, and Anathos Firecaller. That last one sounds like an elf. And finally, both combatants, as they fight progresses, the combatants will perform different team attacks in addition to using their individual abilities. So, I can't tell if that's Horde or Alliance. But Rastakhan has a whole bunch of NPCs associated with his fight. At least according to the original breakdown that I saw on Wowhead, Siegebreaker Roka, which is one of the big dire trolls that's inside Zuldazar's pyramid. We have Rastari Honor Guards. We have Prelate Zalan, which is a Zandalari Paladin. Headhunter Galwana, and Bwonsamdi himself. So I'm really curious to see what kind of powers Bwonsamdi is going to invoke or bring out during the fight, and how much that's going to affect Rastakhan. I do think Rastakhan is going to die in this raid. What about you, Stannis?
I'm assuming he will be the final boss.
For Alliance?
Has that been confirmed? No, for both.
No, that hasn't been confirmed. I assume that he was only going to be the Alliance boss.
Oh, okay. I was under the impression that he'd be the boss for both of them, so I thought there'd be some shady dealings happening that would fit him into both forces having to fight him.
Well, let's look at his abilities. He's got here Stage 1 Zandalari Honor Guard.
Final ally boss. Okay.
Binds Rastakon's soul to his allies, absorbing all damage taken and transferring evenly among them. The reason I don't think he's a horde boss as well is because a lot of the NPCs associated with his fight are friendly to us, unless they all turn.
That wouldn't be out of the possibility for the Horde, just saying. No.
It's true.
This is just me not having played any of the Horde stuff, so I'm just like, yeah, we could fight them. They're trolls. Trolls appear in raids. It's fine. It's fine.
What's really interesting is Prelate Zalan, who is a paladin. Her two abilities are not even related to Razan. They are Aura of Kragwa, which reduces all damage taken by 20%, and Seal of Akunda. And Akunda is actually spelt wrong on this flavor text. We have Siegebreaker Roka, who's just like a big tank who jumps in front of you. Intermission, Bwonsamdi's Pact. King Rastakhan channels fire at an enemy. Plague of Fire. Scorching... we've got Bwonsamdi himself joins the fight. Stage 2 is Enter the Death Realm. And Stage 3, Uncontrollable Power. Interesting. I don't see Rastakhan surviving the expansion, or the raid rather. I see them giving him a cinematic at the end of it. Maybe his final moment with Bwonsamdi, maybe with Talanji present. I'm kind of curious, where is she during this whole situation?
I don't have high hopes for anyone that has an established heir in this game. As soon as they introduce another character that could possibly take over from them, I'm like, your time is coming to an end.
You are. That's the hero trope. I'm sorry, man. Your son is the main character. No, you are destined to die.
I've died from sadness, and then that's just the end.
That's it. Heartbreak death. I'm really excited for this raid because I want to see how someone in chat here says Jaina's abilities are not up yet. Jaina's not even confirmed to be a boss. There's nothing in the files, unless I missed something, that
Pretty sure they said that Jaina's going to be a boss.
They did, I believe, in the stream. They mentioned Jaina. But there's nothing in the files that say anything about Jaina. There's only Mechatork and the Sea Priest blockade. So it looks like that Jaina, because the Horde right now, by the looks of it, has fighting Mechatork, fighting the Sea Priest blockade, and fighting Frida Ironbillow. So they said there's three bosses the Horde fight. And right now there are 3 bosses that the Horde could possibly fight. Gnome King, Dark Irons, and Sea Priests. Unless the Sea Priests are just rogue Sea Priests who come in and just like, we're here to...
No, they'll be on Jaina's dad's boat. It's fine.
But what I'm saying is, if there's already 3 bosses, the Horde doesn't have room for another boss. They said there's 3 Horde bosses, 3 Alliance bosses, and 3 neutral bosses, or bosses we both fight. And right now, there's no Jaina. It's Mechatork.
Yeah, but would she not be part of the Sea Priest blockade? Like,
I see what you're saying.
Could they not be on her boat and being like, yo, we're Sea Priests, we're on a boat, we're doing boat things? Would that not make sense?
Very possible. I'm looking at the fight abilities for that particular fight, and we have no mention of. There's Tide Priestess Catherine, Tide Priestess Joseph, Tempting Siren. They bring in sirens. Apparently that's a thing.
They should have just brought in the cranes, like all the cranes from Tiragard Sound, just release them upon Zuldazar.
Well, that's how the attack's going to start. Is they actually they drop them on Western Zuldazar, and these horrifyingly savage cranes start attacking the city borders, and that's why the fleets come in. There's no they send all the dock guards to the western border to fight these cranes.
Don't send guards. Guards do no damage against cranes. That's their
For anyone who doesn't know this meme, in Tiragard Sound there's a river with a lot of river bud, and if you're a herbalist you'll know, because every time you go to pick that river bud, those cranes attack you, and they are... Every crane on Kultiras and Zuldazar is friendly, except for the cranes in this area. For some reason, their aggro range is huge, and they just charge you. There's an actual part where there's this little alliance settlement nearby, and there's Kultiris guards who are fighting the cranes. The cranes can damage the guards, but the guards cannot damage the cranes. So people have wondered, where has Kultiris been all these years to help the alliance? Now we know. Fighting cranes. This is the Tide Mother's. This is Ajara's army. Like this is what she's been holding back. So Jaina's going to capture them all and then launch them at Zuldazar, and they're going to kill Rastakhan in the cinematic.
Really shouldn't be spoiling this for everyone, but okay.
I know. Guys, don't repeat that. That's special information from Blizzard. I just spoiled the final cinematic of the killer Kultiris cranes versus Rastakhan. That's about it for the interesting lore. But I do want to talk about. Thank you to Latest for linking this to me. The bosses for Crucible of Storms. And I didn't realize there was a little bit of information on them. So we have two bosses in there. We have one called the Restless Cabal. And the information says here, called from the depths to retrieve 3 relics of ancient power. Relics that we've never heard of, but will become relevant in this raid, no doubt. The Restless Cabal is bound to serve N'Zoth and tend to his will. Zajaxages speaks of promises and power, while Fathul crushes the opposition with pure force. Clearly just old god generics. There's nothing really to glean from these abilities and bosses.
I'm guessing they're just squid guys.
Yeah, we have relics of power. They're called the Void Stone, the Trident of Deep Ocean, and Tempest Caller. Is that a guy, or is that an artifact? I can't tell. And then the last boss is Unat, Harbinger of the Void, who also uses relics of power, because that's an old god thing apparently. And I'm just reading his abilities, if there's anything interesting. His unwavering gaze, the piercing gaze of N'Zoth.
Not his gaze.
I know, his his piercing gaze. We know nothing about this raid, guys. We know it's underneath Stormsong, and what I'm about to say has nothing to do with the information that we've data mined. I really hope the Tide Mother isn't Ajara. I really hope the Tide Mother, the big joke of this expansion is there's no old gods. It's definitely not an old god expansion. And we see Kraken and octopus and tentacles all over Kultiras. And I really hope that the Tide Mother is just a really big Kraken Loa or god. And it just happens to be a coincidence. And someone made this point. I said, how could they have all this tentacle imagery and not realize what it represents? But then again, the Kultiris humans didn't go to Silithus. They didn't go fight the old gods, so they might not know that tentacles equals bad. But what if the Tide Mother, because in Stormsong,
yes,
they mentioned the Tide Mother's whispers were nice and friendly. And they get quiet, and then they return, but they're forceful and wicked and mean. And old gods deceive, that's what they do. But it's interesting that it wasn't just a luring voice that slowly corrupts them. It seemed like a sudden change.
It's sounding a bit like a siren, though.
Right? So, or maybe she's not a Kraken. Maybe the Tide Mother is literally a siren goddess, or a siren Kraken goddess. We see a lot of Kraken imagery, and I really don't want it to be N'Zoth. I really want it to be this benevolent, or good rather, purposeful goddess who tried to help the Kultiris humans, and then Ajara or N'Zoth wrapped their tentacles around her tentacles, and it got really weird, and things got turned, and that's why there's so much void and stuff going on Kultiras.
I'm just imagining her as like Ursula from The Little Mermaid, just like Therazane's model, but with just like tentacles.
I'm down for that. but like nice, like not evil Ursula, because we already have that with Ajara. So I'm hoping that there's a little bit of a twist, but I don't think we'll see it in Crucible of Storms. I think it's just going to be, I don't want to say, I don't want to use the word filler raid, because the inside, I can say filler raid. The inside of the raid looks really cool. You guys should go check out Mr. GM, who has a video on the inside of the raid, and it's definitely very old gaudy inside. So like there's teeth and mouths and eyes and horribleness everywhere. But I was really hoping when they announced a Stormsong raid that the Tide Mother was going to be one of them, and we'd get some answers, and it looks like not yet. But again, we haven't seen the raid, so let's not judge that. We're gonna stop talking about lore on a lore podcast. I know it's weird. We're gonna talk about some new models, because I am all about dem new models. And we're gonna talk about the Warfront, specifically the Darkshore Warfront. We're going back to that. We have visuals on screen, and just as I had hoped, and I really wanted to cover this last week when before the patch was dropped on the PTR, I was fingers crossed for a Warfront that had themed armors with every new Warfront. It wasn't confirmed, but when Ian showed the Forsaken on screen with some Forsaken armor, I thought, oh please bring in Forsaken themed armor and Night Elf themed armor. And they did. We have here on screen, guys, the plate set or one of the plate sets. A lot of people aren't happy with them. I think the plate set is a little bit bulky. I think that the boots are a little bit too chunky, but I think it actually works really nice. The colors work really well. I would have liked to see a green version to kind of reflect the Wardens a little bit, the Warden armor, because we're never going to get Warden armor. But that would have been a good way to introduce Warden armor, would have been through Night Elf plate sets. But it looks like we're not going to be getting Warden armor. But still, this is actually pretty dope. What do you think of the Alliance sets here? I'm going through them on screen here. And it's really weird they use a human to show off the male, but they use Night Elves for everything else. I don't know why. I don't know why they did that. Wowhead, please. What do you think of the armor sets, Stannis?
I really like the coloring, like that purple and gold one is like really nice. It's a bit weird how they've got the light reddish, like purpley reddy color there with the silver, because that's very like the Nightborn color aesthetic. So I think that's pretty cool, because it's like the intertwining past of them, but
almost like an ancient Kaldorei coloration.
Yeah, basically like this is some stuff we had laying around since the tree burnt down. We have to like kind of go through the old supplies to bust these out now.
And then there's the blue and gold, where they're just like, well, these are all the scrapped High Elf armor that no one's going to wear, because High Elves are no longer part of the Alliance, so we might
If you want to play a High Elf, play the Horde.
The Horde is waiting. The Horde is waiting for you. Holy fuck. 6 people just dropped out of chat right now and stopped watching, because I think High Elf should be a thing. Don't take that for serious. Sorry.
Don't at me.
Keep going. Don't at me.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I definitely think I liked the first round of the armor better than this one. It just seems a bit so-so, but I'm not too sure.
I think I definitely agree. I think the first set of armor was really unique in that it was human armor that we've never seen before. I think the chainmail was really cool. By the way, I'm not a fan of helms. So when I critique a set, the helm is usually the worst part, but I often overlook it because I just don't even look at helms.
We'll get to helms, Jesse. We'll get to helms.
We're going to get to helms. Stannis has a little bit of a rant about a certain helm coming up. But I think Season 1 Alliance Warfront was people said we don't need more human sets because we have the Stormwind Guard set. People actually say that humans aren't going to get a heritage armor set because we have all the Stormwind Guard set, and
that's silly.
Clearly they are. They're not. Blizzard's not going to say, well, orcs and humans, we've given you enough, go away. Oh, you have a whole expansion of it. No, I'm sorry, that's not the point of heritage armor. I'm okay if humans and orcs have their heritage armor done last, because they do have a lot of armor, but they're not going to get any. The plate set for Season 1 Warfront's very Lordaeron, very the giant lions and very, typical knight style. I loved the cloth. It had a very high health / human feel. There was like a mixture of both elements. The leather one was amazing with the eagle, the bird, and the griffin elements to it. And I love the chainmail, how it was very... I'm going to talk about the chainmail in a second when we get to the horde. Let's look at some other colors here. We have the mail for night elves here. And then we have the elite one with the feathers. And a lot of people expected like sentinel armor. And I believe the sentinel armor is going to be the heritage armor or something very similar, which is why we got this instead of anything remotely sentinel-y. I think what people aren't really considering is this armor. You might say, like, this armor is going to look silly on my shaman or on my worgen. And it's like, yeah, it is going to look silly, just in the same way that every horde who wears Zandalari armor looks really fucking weird unless you're a troll or eventually a Zandalari, right? When a Tauren runs by in the bright gold, I'm like, oh, what is that? The armor is designed for a certain aesthetic of a certain race. It just happens to be the Kultiris armor. Is very... What's the word I'm looking for? Help me out here. Kultiris armor is very realistic and down to earth because it's a human kingdom, right? It's a medieval fantasy style, something you see in Game of Thrones, while Zandalari is very vibrant and bright feathers and bright gold and looks horrible on orcs and undead and every other race except trolls. But that's not a bad thing, because that's what the Zandalari wear. They don't wear spikes. They don't wear fancy silks. They don't wear... What do Tauren wear? Hides and hay. They don't wear that stuff, right? Loincloths. That is what Zandalari wear. So I think people who are looking at this go, this is going to look stupid on my gnome hunter. Yeah, it will. Because this isn't a gnome set. This is a night elf set.
To be fair, everything looks stupid on a gnome. Like, I have a gnome of every class, and a lot of things, they just don't work on gnomes. It will clip through your ears, it'll clip through your hair, it'll clip through your face, it'll clip through the ground. You just have to accept this as a gnome player. So
agreed. And that's someone who has played a gnome as an Alliance main for a long time. The leather sets on screen here. When I thought night elf leather, I just realized the helm's not there.
Oh my.
There's no helm. When I thought night elf leather, I thought it's going to be very assassin-y looking. And they actually went for a more druidic look with the furs and the tunic. And I'm very surprised with how they went for it, but I'm not upset. I really like the vest. The vest is really good. The tunic, it kind of fans out at the bottom, and I wonder, is that part of the chest or is that part of the pants? I love 3D boots. I hate slippers. I hate socks. 3D boots are my jam. So I think that these are pretty dope. Again, some high elf colors there, and then you got the typical silver and red. The silver and red, by the way, is very reminiscent of like the typical... Hold on. Artwork is hard. There's a certain set out there that is very... Well, I can't find it. Is that it? No, that's not it. Well, rip. Anyway, there's a set out there that the red and silver is very reminiscent of an old vanilla set that they had way back in the day that wasn't actually in game, but it was used in a lot of the artwork. And I don't know. I'm heavily reminded. It's the old Sentinel. Yeah, this is it, kind of ish
adjacent.
This one on
general area.
This one on screen right here. You know, how it's padded red and the silver outlinings. I don't know. I think it's the Night Elf sets look really good if you remember that it's meant for Night Elves. It's gonna look bad on your Pandaren and your Gnome and your Worgen and your Dwarf and your Lightforged and your Dark Iron and everything else. But that's okay, because Night Elves, you lost a tree, but you got some sweet armor sets. Sorry, I'm getting lost in looking at this armor. Let's move on to weapons, because I think the weapons are one of the coolest things they've added in game. We got some... oh, that is really big. We got some Night Elf bows on screen here, and feel free to jump in, Stannis. I'm just looking at pictures here. Have you looked at all the weapon models?
I have looked at all the weapon models. Those glaives, I need them in my life.
Okay, so we're going to have a rant about glaives. By the way, I tweeted on the Lost Codex Twitter about this, and everyone listening should go to my Twitter account, the Lost Codex, twitter.com/thelostcodex, and find my post about glaives, and retweet the hell out of this. Don't harass Blizzard, but let me read you my tweet. So, anyone who knows me knows that I am a transmog advocate. I think that there are changes Blizzard needs to make to the transmog community, to the transmog features in game. Here we go. Yeah, Splander says, here we go. Yeah, get ready. Pump your brakes. So my tweet basically says, 8.1 introduces Night Elf and Forsaken themed weapons, and once again we are given some amazing racial warglaives. One of the most iconic, I might as well bring the tweet up on screen here. Let's give some visuals. There we go. So this weapon right here, Transmog Extremist, that is me. So we have a perfect set here and this perfect glaive. This glaive is technically considered a warglaive, which means only demon hunters can use it. Now, yes, demon hunters are night elves, so I guess that's okay. But considering every time we've seen that glaive used in night elf artwork, it's for a rogue, hunter, or warrior. This is the most iconic weapon for night elves in game. And right now on Wowhead, it is classified as a warglaive, which means only demon hunters can wield it. Now you might say, well, Jesse, Alliance demon hunters are night elves. Fine. What about Horde demon hunters? Specifically, this warglaive on screen right now. That is definitely not Blood Elf themed. That is a Forsaken themed weapon. Ignore the armor on the left-hand side. We'll get to there in a second. And so if we go down the list of pictures on this tweet here, I say the Horde glaive is clearly Forsaken themed, and limiting it to a single class race combo, Blood Elf, seems pretty strange. So far, every warglaive in Battle for Azeroth is themed around something not Blood Elf or not Night Elf, except for the previous Night Elf glaive, and many Zandalari and Kultiris NPCs wield them. Here's a troll wielding a warglaive that is very troll-like, that you will never see possible unless Blizzard removes the restriction. Here's an NPC in-game, a Kultiris captain wielding a blatantly obvious Kultiris-themed warglaive that is only available to Night Elf demon hunters. I can see my expression. This is my blink really meme face. This is my why is this a thing? Why are warriors and rogues and hunters and monks, and I actually think shamans too. Shamans, Vol'jin, and actually I talk about that in the next one, with warriors, rogues, DKs, and monks able to use Illidan's glaives. Vol'jin able to wield his iconic weapon, which is a warglaive, and you could argue that Vol'jin's kind of a shaman, Shadowhunter, and many caster characters wielding glaives in Suramar and Silvermoon, like this dude. Could the restriction be lifted and given to more classes? So this is a rogue. Look how amazing that looks. Look at this Magar wielding the Horde warglaives that clearly look very Blood Elf, right? Question mark. My frustration is that Warglaives are tied to a single class when they don't need to be. Death Knights, Monks, Shamans, Warriors, Rogues, Hunters should all be able to wield them. I understood it for Legion. It was the only weapon type that really fit Demon Hunters. But if you're going to make themed Warglaives based around the different cultures of Azeroth, why would a Night Elf Demon Hunter abandon his fell-engraved weapons for a Kultiris folded piece of metal that looks like an anchor? Why would a Blood Elf get rid of his beautiful Sindori blades for a piece of wood and stone crafted by a Zandalari? That is the most un-Blood Elf thing you could think of. Blood Elves would vomit at that pure thought. And people forget that Blood Elves use Warglaives up in Silvermoon. That is a thing that they do. They wield their Warglaives, and it's actually this one right on screen right here. Like that is you could argue that's a spear, but it's very easily a Warglaive as well. So Blizzard, if you're listening, just remove the restrictions on Warglaives. Let at least melee classes and specs wield these. Give them a chance. Hell, Druids too. Why not? Because when you introduce weapons like... I lost it. When you introduce weapons like this on screen, and you don't give it to players who... Most players don't play Demon Hunters. You know, all the Night Elf warriors out there and hunters and rogues who've wanted this in game. It's now in game, but re-roll your class. That's frustrating. That is so frustrating. So if you guys do think that this is something that should be changed, again, giving feedback to Blizzard does not mean you have to harass them. I just tweeted at them. If you support the tweet, you think that you agree with it, go retweet, like it, show your friends, show your grandmother, because Blizzard might not realize, oh, you know what, this is something the community's wanted, or the Night Elf community has wanted for a long time. And again, I don't play Night Elf. This glaive doesn't affect me in any way, but it just seems like common sense to me. So that's my Night Elf rant about glaives. Stannis, you haven't talked in a while. Say something as I go through pictures on screen here.
Glaives, yes. No, I'm all for it. Like, I think they're a bit too stringent on some of the transmog requirements. Like, I don't care if someone wants to have like a flower in their hair or a flower crown any time of the year or silly glasses. Like, that's not like ruining my immersion of the game at all. It's just like, yep, that's some weirdo that I'm probably not going to invite into my group to go into this dungeon. Like, if I'm saving the world, probably not going to invite this guy over here. But like, it's just let people have fun is what it really comes down to from there. And if you're limiting things, it's just like, why? It's just like, it seems like a bit too much effort to prevent people from having things that just doesn't need to be there, really.
Agreed. And I kind of laugh at the meme that Blizzard hates fun, but part of me is like what purpose does all this transmog limitation serve? They don't want you to be silly with your Santa hat all year long. But I can wear. There are plenty of silly hats that I can find out there and wear. I can make my character look like the most ridiculous character ever. Why is it okay only one time of year, and not the rest?
You could be like those parents that take their children out dressed as superheroes. It's the same thing.
Let them do. Let you know, if you want to RP as Great Father Winter all year long, go for it. Like, what at this point? What does it matter? Half the gear is so, you know, the Zandalari armor is so cartoony and so, and I say the word flamboyant in that it's bright gold, bright colors, and so unlike anything that's part of the Horde, right? Black, silver, and red are the Horde colors. Spikes, death, and then you've got these bright colors that people are like, this isn't Horde. It's like, no, it's Zandalari. They're their own separate nation. Let them wear dinosaur skins and feathers. That's what they do. But don't you dare put on a Brewfest hat in the middle of July, or your immersion is ruined. Let's go over to the Horde sets here. That is not Horde. That is Horde. Let's talk Forsaken leather. Now, some people might not like this, but I think the Forsaken gear, and again, this is about the same thing about the Night Elf rant, in that these armor sets look great on Forsaken. These are made to look like they fit a Forsaken. So like the leather gear here, I was a little bit weirded out by the bulky chest piece, but I thought, you know what, that's actually going to protect you. That actually looks like it's solid. I get a real, I can't stand the helm, so we're going to pretend it doesn't exist. The boots and the belt and the pants, like, I get a real armored vibe from it, and then you got the shoulders with the skulls, because God forbid you try not to put on skulls when you're Forsaken. You got to make sure, if people can't tell by your bones, you got to make sure they know you're dead with the skull motif. Same with Death Knights.
I think that helm would look good on anything that wasn't a Forsaken, though.
Maybe, yeah. Like Wowhead doesn't have these models up in the dressing room, so I can't really try this on a human. But maybe it would look good on a human. I can't tell if he's got a really bad hairline or if that is part of his helm. We're going to pretend it doesn't exist. The elite leather is here, spiky death guard. Like I love that. That looks really cool. Now this is going to be half Jesse excited, half Stannis not excited. Stannis, you can start with your dislike of this set. Go, and then I'll come in.
I don't need to even explain this. Look how ugly it is. Like, that is the worst helm that I've seen in any current set, like, that they've done recently. It is the most disgusting thing ever. It's like, why would you... I can't even put into words my distaste for this set, but what it comes down to is you're either a shaman or you're a hunter if you're going to be wearing this set. It doesn't really suit either, and it's just ugly as all hell. Like, I don't know. The only thing I could think of, if you see someone wearing this, you would pick them up and use them as a battering ram in battle. Just like head first into the enemy. That's the use. I don't like it.
So here's and when Stannis, before the stream started, he said to me, well, you and I disagree on that male set because I think it's awful. I think it's amazing, by the way. I love this set. And I thought, I was really like, what do you mean you don't like this set? And like, look at that. Oh my God. Hang on. Control yourself.
It really just comes down to the helm mostly. If you got rid of the helm, it might be much better, but all I can see is that ugly helm.
So when Stannis told me that it was a shaman or hunter set, I thought, you know what? This is a very elegant, very Victorian Gothic style, like vampire-ish set. And you're right, this doesn't look like a shaman, and this doesn't look like a beastmaster or survival hunter, maybe a marksman. And what I instantly thought of was the Forsaken standing on the battlements of Lordaeron in the trailer when they're firing down, and Sylvanas says, keep firing. You see some Forsaken wearing helms. This is what I thought of. And to me, chainmail is a lighter form, it is a lighter form of armor compared to plate, but back in the day, footmen and knights didn't always wear big heavy plate because that wasn't practical to move in, so they wore jackets and other things that had padding and chainmail, and that was, you often see it in Game of Thrones, the lighter dressed soldiers are wearing chainmail and leather as opposed to just solid plate. And I thought, this is really reminiscent. I thought of Kultiris when I saw this. I was like, this is really Gothic Victorian chainmail with the vampire skulls. And the helm to me just seemed like a solid protection. It's goofy as hell, but when you look at it as a shaman or a hunter set, Stannis is right. This is not anything remotely good looking for a shaman or a hunter. Only a marksman hunter would look good with this. Survival or Beastmaster, it's practical as a helm with unnecessary spikes, but it just looks like a typical, I almost think of like the peasant leather helms that you see like they wear, and but in like metal form, and it just looks like something that a random grunt in Game of Thrones would wear without the spikes, kind of thing. The spikes are
even as a marksman hunter, like, I've got my giant mohawk in the middle that I'm going to give away my location, and I'm going to jangle over to you with my chainmail. It's just like, I don't like it.
I guess I'm thinking like less of a stalker in the forest and more of a what's the word, like demon hunter from Diablo or The Witcher style, how he's wearing the leather and the chainmail. This is what I think of when I think of that. Even a survival hunter with like the traps and your spear, like this would be pretty cool to have holding like a spear and running in as like a ground footman. If this was a plate set, I could see that as well, because it's a very light armored plate set. It doesn't look plate, but it looks ground melee-ish. But there's no classes in game that fit this. This doesn't seem overall hunterish, and this doesn't seem very shaman-y. But at the same time, this is not meant for the classes. This is meant to fit Forsaken. So when someone said to the artist, we need to design a chainmail Forsaken set, well, they're not going to think of Forsaken Shaman, and Forsaken Hunters aren't really a thing. So they literally went with a chainmail set with Forsaken elements, and that's why I love it. It doesn't fit classes, but it fits the race, which is why I love it. But I can see why it's goofy, that especially the helm is just... It doesn't fit a stealth. Like, this would look really weird as a leatherware. I love the jacket look to it. I love how it just looks so Victorian Gothic style. Almost to the point where I want to make a Forsaken Hunter, but
I'm just imagining the opening cinematic. You've got all the ramparts filled with all the hunters there trying to hide behind the fire, and you've just got these little fins of horns sticking up. And it's like, oh, there they are. They're just hiding out there. It's fine.
we can see them.
We can see you guys.
So let's move on to the plate set, and I think the plate set is really cool because the plate armor set for, and I apologize to anyone who's listening to this podcast with no visuals, because this is all visual elements. You're just hearing me describe sets. So I apologize if you're listening to this without visuals, but this plate set to me is perfect as a Forsaken set, because like the first tier, the colors fit, but they don't have overly crazy Forsaken themes on them. There's no, when I thought Forsaken plate armor is going to look like a Death Knight, and I was like, oh god, this is going to be the perfect Death Knight set, but it's not going to really have a Forsaken style to it. And I'm actually pleasantly surprised, because the plate actually looks like it's strapped on and not and different, and like, you know, apart in different pieces. You know, you do have that central chainmail element to it, and the helm looks like it'll actually protect you in some fashion. And then we get to the elite version, and it's just true horde style, and throw spikes on it. Throw spikes on the elbows, throw spikes on your knuckles, throw spikes on your boots in places you can't even kick. Throw spike, like, this would be the perfect battering ram Stannis, because no matter where you swing this Forsaken, you're going to do damage. There is spikes out the yin yang on this guy right now. He doesn't even need a weapon. He just has to run at Alliance and swing his arms. This goes back
What I do like about these sets as well is that, like, if you take the shoulders and helm off, like, you can easily put other pieces on there to like make your own sort of style with it. Like the central, like the torso, legs, feet, you could blend them into other things as well. So I like when you can kind of just like make your own sort of thing with it as well. But no, I it's definitely better than the male set. I'll give you that.
This one, I love, like, combining different pieces of sets. So I love how just down to earth and very the same feel I have for Kultiris armor, I have for the Forsaken armor here, and I'm glad that they get a little bit of an elegant style in wearing these. Let's go over to weapons here, and we have, of course, the weapons are going to be the most horrifying things on the planet. Like, let's make an axe out of a hook and a spine.
Of course,
as you do when you're dead. And of course, when in doubt, add skulls. And you know what? I'm not even mad at these. These look very very vampire-ish, very Diablo themed. Look at that warglaive. Isn't that the most perfect blood elf warglaive you've ever seen? That is brilliant. That is beautiful. Like, every blood elf would be wanting to wield that. We've got skulls and more skulls. Oh, we got a bat. That's different. That's definitely that's not a skull. And this reminds me of the mace from Warlord of Draenor, the vampire mace.
That gargoyle one is really cool.
It has a really cool spell effect. And of course, we've got more spikes and more skulls, and more spikes and more skulls, and a horrifying warglaive that we'll come to later. Let's move on to Zuldazar sets. The Zuldazar sets, I was a little bit iffy when I heard it was a Zuldazar raid, because I thought, oh look, more gold. Like, I'm okay with the troll sets. I think they're cool for a Zandalari. I thought, oh cool, some more troll sets.
Yeah.
And not at all. We actually get Bwonsamdi themed sets, which I thought that's surprisingly fitting. So here we have the cloth set, which looks really badass. And the mythic set is here with Bwonsamdi's shoulders. Like, that looks just so...
Mythic set is so good.
So cool. And, you know, like, this is going to look so good on Zandalari, on orcs, on everyone. Everyone's going to look badass with mythic. So everyone next expansion, when we all have mythic, will look amazing. Not this expansion, because none of us will get mythic. Straight up Demon Hunter from Diablo. Like, this is... Necromancer. This is really dope. Now we've got the the leather set, which is just a million bones, and I really thought of the Thunderlord armor from Warlords of Draenor.
The purple leather set, personally my favorite of these ones.
This one, purple feathers.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I just like the color scheme. Like, it just appeals to me.
And again, this doesn't look troll in any way, but again, it fits the troll theme. I love it. The mythic, very cool with the glow and the Bwonsamdi effects. And there's different colors of mythics too, which, as far as I know, is that a thing they do? I'm pretty sure mythic is usually just one color. So these are going to come. I don't know. Maybe one's going to be mythic color for warlocks and mythic color for I don't know. There's different color mythics which they don't usually do. Chainmail. I think it's incomplete. I think the belt and the gloves and the boots are really cool. The helm is... I don't know what that helm is. I think it's clearly a blood troll themed armor set. Like, it's got a little bit of Gahoon elements in there, and we've got the Krog skulls on the shoulders.
I feel sad for hunters and shamans. I really do.
I will admit this is not my favorite set. Just in comparison to the others, I feel that there's less 3D assets on this one compared to the other ones. So that's why I'm thinking, like, is this just incomplete?
It's missing something. It's like, Spud in Nazmir, the thing that you ride around on?
Yes.
Yes. I don't know what that race of things is called. The big blood horse thing that you ride around on. Basically,
yes.
It looks like its butt. You've got its butt as your face. Take that as you will.
There we have it, guys. And the mythic version is like I thought of the Lich King at first. Again, I'm feeling that there's missing elements to it, but at the same time, I'm like, there's probably not. I don't like the chest piece, and I don't like the legs. I don't mind anything else. The belt and the gloves and the boots are okay. The helms, nope, don't like the helm. I can't do it.
I'm sensing a trend with the male sets. It's like, let's make a kind of okay-ish set of armor, and then just let's shove spikes on it for mythic. Spikes on the helm. There we go. More spikes.
I actually love the Uldir mythic set. I think the Uldir male set, rather. I think it's very, very Gen Greymane. There's like certain elements, like less jacket but more of the armor. I think it's pretty dope. But this, no, not a fan. And we don't have the plate versions of this, surprisingly. So, cloth for Night Elves and Forsaken Warfront, and plate for Zuldazar is not out. But here's some Zuldazar weapons. We have a Bone Warglaive that'll look perfect on a Blood Elf. We've got literal monkey fists, by the looks of it, for fist weapons. In case you didn't want to punch someone with your own hands, you can put on monkey hands. We've got Mechatork's mace, because he's not going to die. He's going to leave his mace behind, because he's not going to die. We got some Anduin's dinner cup. I don't know. Or is that Zandalari? I can't tell. That's Zandalari. It's Rosticon's dinner cup. We've got a weird gem offhand. A spiky shield with a horn. There's something Zandalari-ish, finally. Bwonsamdi's staff, I think.
With Mechatork's mace, is that meant to be Wrench Caliber, the mythical weapon of Gelbin Mechatork himself?
Maybe he leaves it behind. And brings
I would not be okay with that.
well, leaves behind.
I want it, but I would not be okay with that.
He leaves it at home for the siege, and then when he escapes, he goes back and gets it. So he only uses this one weapon for this one. Confirmed.
Fair enough. Okay. I'm good with that.
Juan Samdi's staff, I think. A really cool Alliance saber with poorly rendered spell effects, but very cool. Looks like a spell blade, like a Magister spell blade. We have a Zandalari sword. And we have, as Leda said, Jaina's staff in wand form. And then we got some Naga swords and a Naga shield, which is probably related to the Crucible. And then we have a Blood Elf shield right here, which is looks like they're giving Blood Elves updated guards models, I think, somewhere. I have those. Probably not. No. Yeah, right here. They're updating the Blood Elf guard armor sets.
A lot of people were speculating that might be the Blood Elf heritage armor, but I really don't think so.
I don't think so either, because it doesn't have the amount of detail as the rest of the heritage armors, and it doesn't, in the files, the pieces associated with this set have no strings that suggest it's a heritage set. Now, I really don't know how to explain that more. When you find the pieces in the files, it'll say like Zandalari _ heritage armor _ glove or shoulder. Apparently this didn't say that. This only said Blood Elf guard. It didn't say anything about heritage armor. Now if the dwarf armor is data mined in the next build and it does say dwarf guard, maybe, but I doubt this is the Blood Elf heritage armor set. It's not boring, it's just very, this looks like a dungeon set to me, or like a questing set. I'd love for this to become available for players, but this is definitely not the Blood Elf heritage armor set, and it's labeled as guard, so take that as you will. We're getting to almost to the 2 hour mark here, guys, so let's quickly look at some of the other data mine stuff. We have the Kultiris human heritage armor set, which introduces the leather coats, but we don't have the leather coats anywhere else, and I'm really upset that there's no admiral coats at all in the game for players to obtain. So I might have to tweet something about that too, because like this looks amazing. This is a beautiful set. I love the shoulders, how it's very nautical themed. I love the helm. The boots are really cool. The back of the jacket is really awesome. But I don't like that there's no coats available for regular humans or anyone really. It's unfortunate.
Do you think with this set that they're going to do it like, I know there's the set in Freehold that you get that's kind of piratey, that like it's got the coat coming down from the torso and then it connects to the legs, but you have to have the legs on for the coat to actually keep going. Do you think it's going to be the same thing, or it's just going to be like the torso is going to be the whole coat?
That's tough to say, because that would imply that the torso is the coat, the chest piece underneath the coat, while the leggings are just the legs underneath. And that's hard to do for a model. That's very hard to do for players. And so the reason why the other leather coats are not available for players is because the jacket's open and you can see the vest underneath and you can see the pants, but it's not actually two separate pieces. It's all one piece. So I honestly don't think I'd be surprised if the heritage armor leg model was a little bit different, or if it just looks like a version of that, while I think the whole coat only appears if you put on the chest piece itself. I think the chest piece is the entire coat, and basically the legs are an invisible legging. It's kind of hard to...
That would make sense.
Kind of hard to do that.
I just think because it can make some pretty ugly transmogs there if you're just wearing like the bottom half of that coat connected to anything else.
That would be awful. And so I get why coats are hard to do, Blizzard. I get it, but just try and give us those coat models, because it's so unfortunate to see every guard in Kultiris walking around wearing that, and we're unable to get that. Please give me your coat. I'm cold. We got some horses to talk about, because it wouldn't be It wouldn't be a Battle for Azeroth expansion without horses. Goodbye, Stannis.
I'm back.
You're back.
Back.
This is what the horses should have been, with all of the rep rewards. And people are going to know that I'm sounding like a broken record right now. People got mad last week when this was data mined, thinking, another horse model, but really, this isn't bad. It has cool armor, it's got a full saddle and neck armor and everything. It's clearly not a reskin. Clearly.
Even the ones we got for the rep, they're much nicer models than what I thought they would be. It's just that they're all the same sort of animal is the main issue people have.
They're all reskins. Awesome. This at least has flair to it. This is what the Proudmoore Admiralty mount should have been, or the Collector's Edition mount should have been, not generic white horse with green saddle and then Order of Embers. The Order of Embers could have been this, but with black armor and a crossbow hanging off the back. I'm not mad that there's more armor, or more horses rather. I'm mad that the other horses have not been changed or given a little bit of a unique flair to them. This horse is exactly what should have been in at Live. This should have been the Exalted Reputation mount for Proudmoore Admiralty, not the reskin we got. And we actually have Nightsabers that were data mined as well. And I really hope Blizzard goes the Kodo way instead of the horse way, because in Legion, all of the ancient Kodo models, and by ancient I mean the vanilla Kodo mount models, that weren't the epic ones, that didn't have the armor, were given the HD model. So if you had a really crappy Kodo from a million years ago, and you mounted it in Legion, you had a brand new model. It was given an updated shiny coat. Good, because that old model was horrible. All the old horses should be given the same treatment. And I believe the Order of Embers mount and the Black Mountain Horse that you can buy in Stormwind are the exact same model, with the exception of the saddle and the little ankle bracelets. So if you want to save 9,990 gold, go buy the 10 gold horse off of the vendor in Stormwind. You don't get a saddle, but that's
what they need to do. They need to have some sort of way that you can connect all your horses together into some form of horse megazord.
I'm okay with this.
And then just like the arms and the legs, it's just all horses. And then all of your horses have a reason for existing, and everyone will live happily ever after. Or they could give us a Trojan horse, and we could just like send it over to Zuldazar, like just leave it at the front door there. It'd be perfectly fine.
And then the doors open, and there's cranes inside.
We've just planned 8.1 all out now.
Perfect. So this mount is perfect. This is the Kultiris Heritage mount. We got some new Nightsabers and some new Dreadsteeds. Black Dreadsteed and Black Nightsaber, and a white Dreadsteed, which looks really cool, and a white Nightsaber. So these are going to be probably the prestigious mounts for 8.1. These are the new Nightsabers. I think they look really cool, really updated. I love the little decorative shoulder armors for how it's like leaf themed. And I really hope the old Nightsabers from Vanilla WoW are given this skin. Don't make these hard to grind, or at least make these, if they're not going to be tied to rep, make them drop off rares or something. But I believe that the old Nightsaber mounts should be updated to current day graphics, and this would be a good way to do that. Basically what they did for Kodos, not what they did for horses, because that was silly. And then we've got this tentacly looking boy, and this purple chimera or Rylock rather, that we don't really know where it comes from. I never saw this.
So that's earlier. The Hive Mind mount that they data mined before, but with a different model, yes? The tentacle?
Well, Jeremy Fiesel said that the Hive Mind mount was not in-game. Now, that doesn't mean it can't be in-game in the future, but we don't really know what this is. The Hive Mind mount kind of vanished entirely, because he said when the hunt was going on that, by the way, that's not a real thing. And so the community stopped looking for it. But it could be introduced later on in 8.1 or 8.2. We don't really know. And we've got some new tabards. I really like the Kultiris themed tabard here. It's got that really elegant padded look. And we've got the Zandalari The typical skull, and I believe that's it. Oh, we got a whole bunch of character or new creature models. Capybara, because they're awesome. We've got, that's a real capybara. I wasn't expecting that. Thank you, Ahead. This is the boss from the Crucible of Storms. This is a treasure boss. We've got new undead boys, new skeletal soldiers to join Sylvanas' honorable horde.
Such honor.
We have Mechatork's escape pod. Like, this looks pretty heavy duty. He's not dying. He's getting away. He's going on vacation in this thing. Please, God. We have the Ancients of War. The Night Elf units from Warcraft 3. And actually, a little bit of shout out to Latest for pointing this out. So we have the obvious ones, right? We've got the green and the fall colors and the purple colors. And the one with little blotches of blossoming flowers on them. And then we've got the typical Frost one with like the cat wolf tusk face with different colors. And yeah, that's typical. And then we got this one. This weird bird. 4-winged one. 4-winged? Can't count. 5 wings. And I was like, why is this familiar? And Latest pointed out that this is actually from the Night Elf buildings in Warcraft 3, as we see on screen here. And it's actually the Ancient of Wind down here. They're bringing back some of the old Night Elf buildings, which is kind of cool. I hope we see the Ancients just kicking ass and taking names. We have an undead spoopy one. He doesn't look happy. This one looks confused. And we've got some burbs, some beautiful flightless birds, and a Santa sled, new racial mount for the allied race of winter dwarves.
Oh, that's the gnome allied race that they were trying to find. It's like all of Metzen's little helpers.
That's it, confirmed. And they got like candy cane mustaches. And this is actually the other ancient I was looking for, which is also from the Night Elf units, the Tree of Eternity, which has like a totem at the top, like going real like back to old school Warcraft. Like, I like this. We got some air elementals because they finally got the update that they deserved. And, of course, the beautiful HD, wonderful Kael'thas Sunstrider.
Look at all of those polygons. You can count them on a hand.
Yeah, that's being generous. Guys, there is so much coming in 8.1, and I want to speculate a little bit with the allied with the Warfronts coming. I really hope that every Warfront that comes out offers themed sets that relate to the Warfront of that particular race, which means that Night Elves and Forsaken are actually going to have 5 sets this expansion. The Warfronts, cloth leather mail plate, plus their heritage armor. And in the last episode, we talked about Silvermoon as a Warfront and Thunderbluff, or Mulgore, or the Barrens. And earlier, I threw some shade at Tauren players earlier, and my heart goes out to you guys, because Taurens, they don't have good transmog. There's no good Tauren sets out there. The heritage armor for High Mountain is amazing, but Tauren just don't luck out unless you're a druid with the leathers. There's nothing, like a Tauren warrior, there's nothing you can wear that looks good on a Tauren, that looks like something a Tauren would wear. And so I really want there to be a Tauren themed Warfront set of cloth, leather, mail, and plate. And I'm going to take this opportunity to give a little... I wanted to do this for a while now. I wanted to talk about some artists and showcase some art here on the podcast. And recently, a friend of ours by the name of Handclaw did some amazing artwork of interpretations of Tauren sets that he had in mind. And so he did. Here's some concept art that he did. Keep in mind, Handclaw doesn't work for Blizzard. He should. But take a look on screen here, guys. We have on the far left, this is the Warrior set. Then we got the Hunter set. Actually, you can't even see the icons. Let me drag this down a little bit. There we go. We've got the Kodo, the Kodo male, Kodo bone shaman set, and the monk over here. Now, what I love about the monk is it doesn't look panda themed. I love Pandaren, I love their armor, but really Blizzard, step away from making monk designs. Well, we won't worry about that for Battle for Azeroth, but like this looks Tauranish. The shaman, it doesn't look like chainmail, because shamans shouldn't wear chainmail, as Stannis said earlier. They should wear bones. The hunter one literally looks like you're wearing a dead Wind Rider on your back. And then he did more. We've got the druid on the far left. We've got the sun priest in the middle, like a Tauren cloth. Amazing. And then my favorite is the Death Knight. Dead, undead, bone walker Tauren. Amazing. And then the paladin one. Paladin sets are hard to do for Tauren. And making it out of wood, making it literally out of totem, like pieces of carved totem, that's so good. And so I really hope that Blizzard makes a Warfront style for Mulgore, because I really want the Horde sets to be Tauren, because Tauren deserve it. And if they get 5 sets, cloth, leather, mail, plate, and heritage armor this expansion, hot damn, there's going to be some good looking Tauren out there wearing some really cool armors. So guys, this is Handclaw on Twitter, twitter.com/hand, your hand, and then your claw, if you've got claws. Go follow him on Twitter. And let him know what you think of his art. He's actually doing this sort of style for a whole bunch of races. If we go, he's doing one on Worgen now, and here is his Worgen priest. That is his Worgen priest set. Very, very, you know, if you look at the belt, it's the Worgen symbol with the lanterns. Here's his druid set, his Druid of the Wild. Like, honestly, guys, join the Discord, because Handclaw is always posting in the art channel, posting updates on his sets. And
looks really cool.
Go give him a follow on the Twitters. Really, really amazing artist doing concept art for all different kinds of racial themed class sets, which is something that I've wanted from Blizzard for a long time. But that's a lot of work, because that's every class for every race. That's a lot of work. That'll never happen. But at least with Warfronts, we can get that. And I'm hoping for Silvermoon. I'm hoping for Mulgore. If you were to have one Warfront to determine the theme of your armor, Stannis, what would you want?
Khazmodan. Warfront Khazmodan. I don't know how the Horde would actually get there.
Dwarves or gnomes?
Of course, gnomes.
Okay, I was gonna say.
Why is that even a question, Jesse?
Sorry, go ahead.
It's just really leading into my long-standing desire to get Gnome Regan back, but that's another story for another time there. But I'm thinking, I'm just thinking gnome armor, just a whole set of gnome armor for each class. I'd really be on board with that. I would, if you put that in the gear store, just be like, yep, $10 a pop. Yep, there we go. I'm buying it all. Thank you. Have my money. Take it now.
I'm going to show his gnome set here on stream.
He's got gnomes.
He's completed the gnomes. So this is
like Christmas. I'm so happy.
This is so happy. This is his hunter set and his Death Knight set. The Death Knight one looks so good. Death Knight and hunter.
Death Knight is pretty good. I would totally be on board with that. Sign me up.
We've got a monk set here. Gnome monk, a mech monk with the gnome gear on the belt and the little tassels. This has nothing to do with.
Is that like a cog like Raiden hat? I'm sold. Thank you, please.
It is a cog Raiden hat. And here's the rest of them. We've got a engineer set only on the far left for like tinkers. We have a mage set, the warlock mech. The fucking priest has little helicopters that fly as your shoulders. It's like a surgeon.
That is awesome.
We've got a really cool gnome like a mecha gnome style rogue set, and then the warrior one just looks like a steam tank. Again, guys, this is Handclaw on Twitter.
I need all of these.
These should be Blizzard. If you're listening to this and you want some ideas, you should message Handclaw and hire him.
Has the warrior got like a little welding mask on? Oh, I need that.
He does. So guys, go check him out. Let him know you're a fan of his armor, and he's working on the Worgen set. So any Worgen fans out there, stay tuned. If I had any one race that I would like to see for a Warfront, I would love Worgen. I would love to see a Victorian style cloth, leather, chainmail, and plate. I'm really excited for a Worgen update, and I really hope Blizzard shows us at BlizzCon. Ian mentioned he wants to show us pictures. BlizzCon would be the perfect time for that. And then horde wise, if I were to choose, definitely Tauren. Tauren are definitely lacking. Goblins would be pretty cool too, but we need Worgen for their coats, and we need Tauren for their feathers. Just help Tauren out. They need help. Guys, this is episode 23 of Decoded. We've rambled on for quite some time. Stannis, thank you for joining me on our rant and our discussion of 8.1. I hope to be able to do some more info dumps on future patch or PTR drops in the future, providing no tornadoes, let alone 6 tornadoes hit my city. Tornadoes. Lornadoes. So I hope this week that we're going to get some more updates, and I'll be able to showcase some of the information in future little short blurbs. I want to do short little videos and talking about the new stuff that's come out, and then spend the time with my guest here on podcast ranting about it and raving about why transmog needs to be free of its strict rules, guys. For anyone who listened to the audio-only version of this, and you didn't have any of the pictures, I do apologize. I can imagine, I realized halfway through that that's probably something that's not quite enjoyable to listen, but maybe it is. Maybe it's funny to listen to our description of things that you can't see, and then you're going to go home. So, guys, this is 2 hours. We're over the 2-hour mark here, so thank you so much for listening to episode 23, and I don't know what next week's episode is going to be about in 4 days, but I'll figure it out before then, unless
at some point it will happen.
It will happen. I haven't decided when. Stannis, you are always welcome back on the show to talk about Tyrande and gnomes, and that's all we can talk about. If it's not those topics, then we can't have you back.
It's not those topics I'm not interested in. It's fine.
You don't even watch the podcast normally.
Don't even care.
Don't even care. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us for episode 23. Links below for everything we talked about today on 8.1. And we'll see you next week. See you guys.
Bye-bye.